Have you ever felt like you were being pushed away from people you once trusted? Have you ever felt like doors were closing, friendships were changing, or you were walking through seasons of loneliness without understanding why? Listen carefully, because sometimes separation is not rejection, it is preparation. Before God elevates a life, He often removes distractions, removes the wrong voices, and removes anything that can stop your destiny. You may feel alone today, but you are not abandoned. You are being positioned. You are not being punished. You are being prepared for something greater than you can imagine. Stay with me, because this message may speak directly to your heart tonight. My dear friends, life is not always about speed. Sometimes it is about timing. Many of us want elevation. We want success. We want recognition. But we forget that true elevation requires preparation of the heart. There are seasons in life where you will feel like you are walking alone. People may misunderstand you. Friends may change. Even some relationships that once meant everything to you may begin to fade away. And you will ask yourself, why is this happening? But I want you to understand something powerful today. Sometimes separation is not a sign of loss. It is a sign that God is working in ways you cannot yet see. There are moments when God removes people not because they are bad people, but because they are not part of the future He is preparing for you. Some people were meant to walk with you for a season, but not for your entire journey. If God kept everyone around you during your preparation season, you might become distracted from your purpose. You see, greatness is often born in quiet places. Great destinies are shaped in moments where nobody is watching, when you are praying alone, when you are working, when others are resting, when you are believing even when your circumstances are telling you to give up. There will be times when your growth will make others uncomfortable. And sometimes, without saying anything, your progress will cause certain people to distance themselves. Do not be discouraged. You are not being rejected. You are being refined like golden fire, becoming stronger, brighter, and more valuable through the process. Remember this truth: elevation requires transformation. The person you were in the past cannot always enter the future God has prepared for you. Old mindsets must be replaced with faith. Old fears must be replaced with courage. Old doubts must be replaced with hope. There is also divine protection in separation. Not every environment is safe for your calling. Not every voice is speaking life into your destiny. Sometimes God removes you from certain places because He sees danger that you cannot see. He protects your character, your purpose, and your future blessings. You may be walking through silence right now. You may be feeling forgotten, but I want you to hold on to this promise in your heart. Your season of preparation is not your final story. The silence you feel today is often the calm before destiny speaks loudly in your life tomorrow. So stand strong, keep believing, keep growing, keep praying, because before God elevates a life, He first prepares the heart. Then He separates that life from everything that can hold it back. And when your time comes, your elevation will not just surprise people. It will glorify the purpose that was planted inside you from the beginning. Stay faithful. Your elevation is coming. My dear friends, listen carefully to this truth that touches the human heart in every generation. There are moments in life when you feel like you have been pushed away from people you love, from familiar places, and from comfort that once surrounded you. And in those moments, your heart may ask, Why am I walking this road alone? But I want you to understand something powerful tonight. Separation is not always a sign of loss. Sometimes it is the voice of destiny preparing you for something greater than you can see with human eyes. God does not always work in loud miracles. Sometimes He works in quiet preparations, shaping your life when nobody is watching, molding your character when the world is sleeping, building strength inside your spirit when you feel weak and uncertain. You see, there are seasons in life when God removes certain voices from your surroundings, not because those voices were always evil, but because they were not meant to speak into your future. Some relationships are like chapters in a book. They have a beautiful purpose, but they are not meant to stay forever. If everyone stayed in every season of your life, you might never discover who you are truly meant to become. God is not trying to isolate you to punish you. He is separating you to protect your purpose. Just like a farmer separates seeds to prepare them for growth, God sometimes separates leaves from distraction so that destiny can grow freely in the soil of faith and hope. There will be times when your growth will make others misunderstand you. When you begin to change your thinking, your goals, and your direction, not everyone will understand the transformation taking place inside your heart. But do not be discouraged. Remember that greatness has always walked through lonely roads before walking into public victory. The strongest faith is often built in silent prayers, not in loud celebrations. When you are praying alone, when you are trusting God without immediate answers, when you are moving forward even when your path is unclear, that is where spiritual strength is formed. Your life is not measured by how many people walk beside you. Your life is measured by how faithfully you walk in the direction of your calling. There is also divine protection in separation. There are dangers you cannot see, battles you cannot fight, and problems you cannot even understand yet. But faith teaches us that God sees the beginning and the end of every story. Sometimes He closes doors because He knows what is behind them. Sometimes He changes your environment because He is protecting your character, your future family, your dreams, and your spiritual destiny. You may not understand it today, but one day you will look back and say, "Now I understand why that season had to happen." Do not measure your worth by how many people remain in your life during your preparation season. Measure your worth by how faithful you remain to your purpose during your lonely seasons. The world celebrates success, but heaven celebrates faithfulness. Keep moving forward, even when you feel emotionally tired. Keep believing even when circumstances look impossible. Keep trusting even when answers are delayed, because God's timing is always greater than human timing. And when your time of elevation finally comes, it will not just be success for your name. It will become a testimony of faith for generations who will hear your story and find hope through it. My dear friends, tonight I want you to understand a powerful truth that often changes the direction of a life. Many people desire success, recognition, and blessing, but they do not always understand the price of preparation. You may be praying for doors to open, praying for opportunities, praying for breakthroughs, but sometimes God's way of working is different from what we expect. There are moments when God does not immediately bring new people into your life. Instead, He begins removing people from your life. And you may feel emotional pain. You may feel confused. You may wonder if something is wrong with you. But I want you to listen closely tonight. Because heaven often works in ways that human logic cannot understand. Some people leave because they were never meant to walk with you into your destiny. They may have shared memories with you. They may have laughed with you during good times. But not every companion is assigned to every season of your journey. Life is like a long road, and on that road, different travelers walk beside you for different distances. Some walk with you during your childhood dreams. Some walk with you during your struggles. But there are others who are only meant to walk with you until your preparation season is complete. And when God sees that you are ready for the next level of your calling, He sometimes allows separation to happen naturally, without drama, without conflict, because He is gently guiding your life toward your purpose. You see, emotional attachment to the wrong environment can sometimes slow down spiritual and personal growth. When God is preparing a life for greatness, He often begins by changing that life's surroundings. Because your environment influences your thinking. Your thinking influences your decisions. And your decisions shape your future. So when God begins to shift your environment, He is not trying to destroy your happiness. He is preparing your destiny. Just like a teacher removes distractions from a classroom so students can focus, God sometimes removes distractions from your life so your calling can grow stronger. There will be moments when you feel misunderstood during this process. People may say that you are changing. They may say you are different. But change is not something to fear when it is connected to purpose. Growth will sometimes make you feel uncomfortable because growth requires leaving behind old habits, old fears, and old mindsets. The person you were in the past was necessary for that season of life. But God is always calling you to become stronger, wiser, and spiritually deeper than before. Faith is not only believing when life is good. Faith is continuing to believe when life is uncertain. There is also a spiritual protection hidden inside separation. You may not see it at first, but God sees dangers that you cannot see. Sometimes certain relationships carry emotional burdens that can weaken your spirit. Sometimes certain environments can slowly pull you away from your calling. So God, in His wisdom and love, gently guides you away from what could harm your future. He is not punishing you. He is protecting you. He is not abandoning you. He is positioning you for something greater than you have ever imagined. So tonight, if you feel alone, do not lose hope. If you feel like you are walking through a quiet season, do not lose faith, because God is never finished writing your story. And sometimes, before the world sees your elevation, heaven prepares your heart through separation. My dear friends, tonight I want to speak to your heart about something very real, something very personal, something that every person walking this earth will experience in one form or another. When God begins to elevate a life, He often begins by changing that life from the inside before He changes anything on the outside. Many people want visible success. They want recognition. They want opportunities. But God is not first concerned with your status in the eyes of the world. He is concerned with the condition of your heart, your character, and your spiritual foundation, because what God builds inside you will sustain you when the storms of life begin to blow against you. There will be moments when you begin to feel different from the people around you. You may not enjoy the same things you once enjoyed. You may begin to think differently. You may begin to dream bigger dreams and seek deeper meaning in life. And sometimes, without even realizing it, you will begin to outgrow certain environments. This is not something to fear. This is a sign that God is stretching your life toward its true purpose. Just like a child grows out of small clothing, there comes a time when your spiritual and emotional growth will no longer fit inside old limitations. And when that happens, God does not force you to stay where you no longer belong. He gently leads you forward into new seasons of purpose. You must understand that elevation is not always comfortable. In fact, many of the greatest spiritual victories in history were born out of seasons of discomfort and loneliness. There will be nights when you pray and feel like your prayers are echoing in silence. There will be days when you work hard but do not yet see the rewards of your labor. But do not lose heart, because silence is not the absence of God's presence. Sometimes silence is the space where God is preparing something greater than you can imagine. Faith is believing even when you cannot immediately see the outcome. There may be people who do not understand the changes happening in your life. They may try to pull you back into old habits, old fears, or old ways of thinking. But you must stand firm in your purpose. God does not call you to live according to the expectations of others. He calls you to live according to His purpose for your life. True freedom comes when you stop trying to please every voice around you and start listening to the voice of your calling. And remember this truth, my friends, sometimes God removes people from your life not because you are better than them, not because they are bad people, but because He is protecting the destiny He placed inside you. Every great life must learn how to walk through seasons of separation, because separation builds strength. Separation builds dependence on God rather than dependence on human approval. And when you learn to trust God in your lonely seasons, your faith becomes unshakable. So tonight, if you feel like you are being prepared in quiet places, do not lose hope. If you feel like doors are closing around you, do not be discouraged, because God's plan for your life is greater than the temporary pain of preparation. One day, you will look back and realize that what felt like separation was actually God's way of guiding you toward your destiny. And that realization will fill your heart with gratitude and faith for the journey you have walked. My dear friends, tonight I want you to listen closely to a truth that is often difficult for the human heart to accept, yet it is one of the greatest spiritual realities of life. When God is preparing to elevate a life, He often begins by protecting that life in ways that may not always feel comfortable. You see, we often think elevation means more friends, more popularity, more recognition from the world. But in the kingdom of God, elevation begins with protection, and protection sometimes means being removed from environments that can slowly weaken your faith, your character, and your spiritual strength. There are moments in life when you will feel like you are standing between two worlds. One world is the world of your past, filled with memories, familiar voices, and comfortable habits. The other world is the world of your future, filled with uncertainty, faith, and new responsibility. And during that transition, you may feel emotional tension inside your heart. You may feel like you are being pulled in different directions. But I want to tell you tonight that spiritual growth always requires leaving something behind in order to reach something greater ahead. God does not always work according to human expectations. We want instant answers, instant success, instant peace. But God often works slowly, quietly, and deeply within the human soul. He is not only interested in changing your circumstances, He is interested in transforming your character. Because circumstances can change overnight, but character is built over time through trials, through patience, and through faith in moments when you cannot see the outcome. There will be people who will not understand your journey. They may see you changing and think you are becoming distant. They may see you focusing more on purpose and less on temporary pleasures. But do not be discouraged by misunderstanding. Even Jesus himself walked through seasons where people misunderstood his mission. Purpose sometimes looks like isolation from the crowd, because purpose requires focus. And focus requires removing distractions that can pull your heart away from your calling. You must remember that not every voice is meant to speak into your destiny. Some voices bring encouragement, while others bring doubt and confusion. When God is preparing you for elevation, He begins to quiet the voices that do not speak life into your spirit. He begins to strengthen your ability to hear His guidance in your heart. Because in life, the most important voice you will ever hear is not the voice of public opinion, but the quiet voice of divine purpose speaking inside your conscience. There may be nights when you feel alone. You may look around and wonder why your journey feels different from others. But do not compare your life to anyone else's life. God writes every destiny differently. Some people receive their breakthroughs quickly. Others walk through longer seasons of preparation. But long preparation often produces stronger foundations, and strong foundations are necessary for greater responsibilities and greater blessings. So tonight, hold on to hope. Trust that even when you cannot see progress, God is still working. Even when doors seem closed, God is still guiding your steps. And even when separation hurts, remember that God is not removing you from love. He is positioning you for purpose. And when your time of elevation comes, it will not be because of human strength alone, but because of divine grace working quietly, faithfully, and powerfully in your life. My dear friends, tonight I want to speak to your heart about something deeply spiritual and deeply personal, something that many people only understand after they have walked through difficult seasons in life. Before God elevates a person, He often first tests that person's faith, not to destroy them, but to strengthen them. Because true spiritual elevation is never built on comfort alone. It is built on trust, obedience, and faith, even when circumstances seem uncertain. Many people want God's blessings, but they do not always understand that blessings are often carried through seasons of preparation. You see, when God is preparing to elevate your life, He begins working quietly in your character. He begins changing your priorities. He begins shaping your thoughts. You may start desiring different things than you desired before. You may start seeking deeper meaning in life rather than temporary satisfaction. And sometimes this process feels uncomfortable because it forces you to leave behind old habits and old ways of thinking. But I want you to understand tonight that growth is not punishment. Growth is evidence that God is working in your life. There will be moments when you feel like you are walking through a spiritual wilderness. In that wilderness, you may not hear many voices encouraging you. You may not see immediate results from your efforts. You may pray and feel like heaven is silent. But do not mistake silence for absence. God often works most powerfully when the world is quiet. Some of the greatest spiritual transformations happen in hidden places where nobody else can see what God is doing inside your heart. And remember this truth, my friends, God is more interested in preparing you than impressing others through you. The world measures success by popularity, wealth, and recognition. But God measures success by faithfulness, humility, and obedience to His purpose. There are many people who rise quickly in the eyes of the world, but lack spiritual foundation. And when storms come, their lives fall because they were built on temporary things. But the life that is built on faith can withstand any storm. There may be relationships in your life that begin to change during your preparation season. Some friendships may grow distant. Some people may not understand the new direction of your life. But do not be discouraged. Sometimes God removes certain relationships because He is preparing you for greater responsibility. Not every person is meant to walk with you into your future. Some were placed in your life to teach you lessons, to give you experiences, and then to step aside so you could continue your journey. You must also understand that God's timing is always perfect, even when it does not match human expectations. We live in a world that wants everything quickly, but God is not in a hurry. He is working according to eternal wisdom. He sees tomorrow, He sees next year, He sees your entire future. And sometimes what we call delay is actually divine preparation. So if you are in a season where you feel separated, do not lose hope. If you feel like God is working quietly in your life, trust Him. Because before God elevates a life, He prepares that life. And when the time of elevation comes, it will not only bring personal blessing, but it will become a testimony that inspires others to believe in God's faithfulness and love. My dear friends, tonight I want you to listen carefully to a truth that many people only understand after they have walked through difficult valleys in life. Before God elevates a person, He often prepares that person through separation, through testing, and through seasons that may not always make sense to the human mind. You see, we live in a world that celebrates instant success. People want quick breakthroughs, quick recognition, quick victory. But God is not interested in quick success alone. He is interested in eternal purpose, in spiritual strength, and in building a life that can stand firm even when storms come. There are moments in life when you will feel like God is changing your relationships, your environment, and even your desires. Things that once satisfied you may no longer bring joy to your heart. Places that once felt comfortable may begin to feel empty. And you may wonder what is happening inside your soul. But I want to tell you tonight that spiritual growth always begins from the inside. God does not start by changing your circumstances first. He starts by changing your heart. Because a heart transformed by faith can endure anything this world may bring. There will be times when you feel misunderstood by people around you. When you start walking in your purpose, some people will not understand why you are making different choices. They may think you are becoming distant. They may think you are forgetting your past. But in reality, you are not rejecting your past. You are simply growing into your future. And growth sometimes requires distance from voices that do not speak life into your calling. You must learn to listen more carefully to the voice of God than to the voices of fear, doubt, or discouragement around you. Remember this truth, my friends. God's preparation season is never wasted time. The world measures time by productivity and visible results. But God measures time by spiritual maturity. There are lessons you can only learn in silence. There are strengths you can only gain through struggles. There are faith experiences that cannot be learned in comfort. They must be learned in seasons where you must trust God even when you cannot see the road ahead clearly. You may also find that during your preparation season, some people begin to leave your life. And I want you to understand that this is not always rejection. Sometimes it is divine direction. God knows who belongs in your future and who belongs only in your past memories. Some people were placed in your life to encourage you for a moment, to teach you lessons, and then to step aside so you could continue walking toward your destiny. Do not be bitter when people leave. Instead, pray for them and trust that God is still guiding your journey. There is also spiritual protection hidden inside separation. God sees dangers that you cannot see. He sees emotional wounds that may form if you stay in the wrong environment. He sees spiritual struggles that could weaken your faith. So He gently moves you away from what could harm your future blessing. You may not understand it at first, but one day you will look back and realize that God was protecting you even when you thought you were alone. So tonight, hold on to faith. Trust God even when the road is difficult. Because before God elevates a life, He first prepares that life in faith, in character, and in spiritual strength. And when your time of elevation comes, it will not only bless you, but it will become a testimony that brings hope and faith to others who are still walking through their own preparation seasons. My dear friends, tonight I want to speak to your heart about something very powerful, something that every believer and every searching soul must understand. Before God elevates a life, He often prepares that life through faith, building experiences that may not always feel comfortable, but are always necessary for spiritual growth. You see, we live in a world that wants elevation without sacrifice, success without testing, and victory without endurance. But God's way is different. God's way is deeper. God's way is eternal. There will be moments in your life when God begins rearranging your priorities. You may start feeling a deep hunger for purpose. You may start feeling dissatisfied with temporary pleasures that once seemed important, and you may not even understand why your heart is changing. But I want you to know tonight that when your heart begins to desire more meaning, more truth, and more spiritual depth, that is often a sign that God is preparing you for greater responsibility, because God does not elevate people based on outward appearance alone. He elevates people based on the condition of their hearts. And sometimes, my friends, this preparation process can feel lonely. You may look around and notice that the crowd is moving in one direction, while you feel called to walk in another direction. Do not be afraid when your path looks different from others. God has never called every life to follow the same road. Some roads are wide and crowded, but they do not always lead to spiritual fulfillment. Sometimes the road God chooses is narrower, quieter, and requires more faith to walk. But that road always leads to true purpose. You may also experience moments when opportunities seem delayed. Doors you expected to open may remain closed. Prayers you prayed with tears may seem unanswered for a season. But do not lose hope, because God's delays are not denials. God's timing is always perfect, even when we cannot understand it with our human understanding. Sometimes God is not saying no. Sometimes He is saying wait, because He is preparing something greater than what you asked for. There will be people who do not understand your journey. They may question your decisions. They may criticize your faith. They may try to pull you back into old habits and old patterns of thinking. but you must stand firm in your calling. Do not allow temporary opinions to silence eternal purpose. Your life is not meant to satisfy everyone around you. Your life is meant to fulfill the purpose God placed inside your soul before you were even born. And remember this, my dear friends, God often uses separation to strengthen dependence on Him. When everything is going well and everyone is around you, it is easy to forget how much you need God's guidance. But when you walk through difficult seasons, when you feel alone, when you feel uncertain, that is when faith becomes real and powerful. Faith is not just believing when miracles happen. Faith is continuing to believe when you cannot see miracles yet. So tonight, if you feel like you are in a preparation season, do not despair. If you feel like God is working quietly in your life, do not lose heart, because God is never finished with a life that is surrendered to Him. And before God elevates a life, He always prepares that life in faith, in patience, and in spiritual strength that will shine brightly when the world finally sees what God has been building in secret. My dear friends, as we come to the close of this message, I want you to hold this truth deeply in your heart. Before God elevates a life, He first prepares that life in ways that may not always be easy to understand. You may feel separation, you may feel silence, and you may feel like you are walking through seasons of uncertainty. But remember, God is never absent in your preparation season. He is working even when you cannot see His hands moving. He is building strength inside your spirit. He is shaping your character. He is preparing you for blessings that require spiritual maturity and faith. Do not be discouraged when people leave your life. Do not be afraid when doors close. Do not lose hope when answers are delayed, because God's delays are not denials. They are divine preparations for something greater than you can imagine. Your pain today can become your testimony tomorrow. Your loneliness today can become your spiritual strength tomorrow. Stand firm in faith, keep praying, keep believing, and keep walking forward even when the road is difficult. And remember this final truth. My friends, before God elevates you publicly, He will first prepare you privately. So trust His timing, trust His love, and trust His plan for your life. Amen.